I actually am here at the Out and Equal Conference for the Federal Leadership Seminar as a steward with AFG Local 1843. I was very grateful that the Women's Fair Practice Department, National Vice President Augusta Thomas, and Ms. Kenesha Washington funded me with AFG's support to be at the conference. I also started a Native American EEO special emphasis program at my VA hospital, working in an EEO SEP role for 7 years, and then started the second ever EEO LGBT special emphasis program in the Department of Veterans Affairs, the first being started by a gentleman named Mr. Jeff Pellegrini at Portland and some other folks before him.
And I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs also. I'm the Director of Management, Planning, and Analysis at the Board of Veterans Appeals. And I started it at Department of Veterans Affairs in March of 2011 and began kind of down this road with the LGBT group as a member of the Emerging Issues Diversity Committee. And then when they formed the LGBT employee work group, I was one of the charter members, as you were too. So that's how I became involved.
I was honored during my EEO SEP work to be invited and supported by VA, our local Northport Medical Center, to come here and be at two of the conferences. I don't remember the exact year, I think it was 2009 and 2010 though, LA and Austin. And it really was a tremendous uplift to get here, having worked in the federal government and remembering when John Berry spoke here, that federal agencies, to his perspective, at least 2 years ago, were 20 years behind the private sector in terms of LGBT diversity and visibility at that time. So I'm going to give them credit and say we're now 18 years behind and we're moving forward at a high rate of speed. Working with people like Bruce and the LGBT work group in VA Central Office and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion has been an incredible uplift. The work of Tanisha Agramonte, Georgia Coffey, the Deputy Undersecretary, and others, Taylor Naju, who is now head of the EEO LGBT group there, has been really great to see them seeing the voices that have come from the community around the nation saying we want more LGBT partnership and visibility with folks in the VA for our employees, which is the EEO side of the house. And then we're also seeing, separate from EEO, that there are issues for our veterans, obviously our LGBT veterans, and how we become a healthcare provider of choice for them and help them feel at home and welcomed being in VA.
And I'll just echo many of the things he just said. I mean, I'm here basically as part of the LGBT work group to learn best practices, to find out things we can be doing, and to share also with people from other agencies and from the private sector things that the VA is doing, and get the word out there about the services we're offering both to our veterans and our employees. Allies for the LGBT community have been huge. I know in the VA, some of our biggest proponents, he mentioned Georgia Coffey, who is our Undersecretary, who's the head of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. She's been amazing. Yeah. I mean, I'd say without her and Tanisha, we wouldn't have this program going. They've been so supportive. I think we all feel like they have our backs 100%, and they are really pushing to improve the lives of our LGBT veterans and our employees. So we've talked about today at this conference, when we have LGBT pride observances, we had quite a large crowd, and a good portion of that was our allies who were there. And it helps people who are coming out, who might not feel comfortable, realize people are there supporting them, and there's a network there that helps a lot. So I think it's extreme. I work with the Department
of Veterans Affairs, and I was here to give a presentation on beginning special emphasis programs within the VA setting. And I just, could present on the perspectives and observations that I was aware of from VA main healthcare system. The Out and Equal conference is tremendously important to me. It energizes me, it charges me up so that I can go back and do the work that I feel so strongly about. And when I come up against a roadblock, I'm able to pull some of the tools that I learned at Out and Equal in the Workplace Summits and have been able to utilize them so that I can move past those roadblocks. I get my strength from my higher power, my faith that I rely on, meditation, and being able to draw my own strength from inside and being able to connect with the universe and draw from that energy that the universe provides.
That's incredibly beautiful. I'm sort of like everything she said and a little bit more. I really like that. I also am incredibly honored to walk with a brother, or husband I'll call it, for 30 years, my partner Peter Bridgestock. We were married, and it's an honor to have him as my wingman. I'll get a little emotional there. And I also, to sit with people like Bruce and Dot and know that within this large structured VA or Veterans Health Administration or National Cemetery System or VACO, there is this community of people that when I felt the isolation and when I felt the loneliness sometimes, especially prior to the EEO LGBT SEP programs existing, we now have 30 of them in the country, I really didn't have that community. There was a gentleman named Richard Settle, who I remember, who recently retired, who was a lifeline. And now we have folks like these two folks sitting with me here who I feel like if I need to pick up the phone and say, hey, you know, I'm going through something, or, you know, can you help me with something? We've begun to build this community. And I also have availed myself in moments of people in central office and been able to share a little bit from my heart about those struggles. And so all of that helps, and that sort of higher power and nature, even though we are brave enough to come here in a hurricane, has been a wonderful thing. So over to Bruce.
Yeah, I would say for me, and I feel very lucky in that I don't feel like I face too much overt discrimination. There are things like we've talked about here today where you might hear something that is not very pleasant, or maybe you wish you hadn't heard. But in general, I'd say I have a very strong network of friends and family. I have a husband. We've been together 15 years. Only recently, with the change of laws, actually married. But you know, I have a very strong family network and very strong friend network, and my supervisors have been great. So that helps a lot.